I work with our contracting and purchasing teams on our procurement processes to kind of find opportunities for improvement, where we can standardize, where we can gain some efficiencies, and where we can improve our overall processes. At Sanford, we had a few health network locations, meaning smaller hospitals, smaller clinic facilities surrounding our central medical centers. On the horizon, we had a few new facilities that were coming into the mix through mergers and acquisitions, and we knew we really had to come up with a solid approach, and we didn't see that slowing down anytime soon. When you looked at the external environment in healthcare, growth and consolidation was really happening, really starting to take the key initiative to push forward. And so we really decided that we needed to follow suit with that and be on the leading edge of that and sit down and develop a plan that we could use that was both sustainable and flexible. So we began by assembling our stakeholder group in supply chain. We also included some people from IT as we standardize a lot of our infrastructure and IT platforms through our integration process. And we sat down and we started developing the plan. We have 7 core steps in the integration process, and it starts out from very high level, very broad, to more detailed implementation. We actually spend 5 of the 7 of those core steps looking at the current state of the facility. So we really think it's very important to sit down and understand how they're currently operating. What are their uniquenesses? What are some things that we need to be aware of? Do they have any outlying facilities that they support? So we spend a great deal of time of those 5 steps really looking at how they're currently operating before we go in and implement any change. Now, our latter steps, especially when getting into implementation, is really very detailed. We do a lot of different things as part of that process. Our implementation is highlighted by 2 key things. One of those being that we do a total conversion of their supply chain management information system to Lawson, which is a very large effort, and we have a lot of support from our IT group at Sanford to do that. The other part of it is our supply chain management philosophy at Sanford is really to standardize to the greatest extent possible. And to support those efforts, when we do any integration project, we do a product review. We take the new site's item master, we compare it against our Sanford item master, and we look at what we have that doesn't match or doesn't follow our core product standards. And we spend time with the site going through that, reviewing that, and finding opportunities for standardization and conversion. So it's quite a significant effort and takes a great deal of time and resources. The overall key to success, probably the largest, is understanding the current state of the facility before you implement any change. Although you have a very consistent way to approach integration, you're always going to have nuances at your facilities that you need to understand. So you really need to devote all the time up front to figure out what those are. Another thing is having open communication. There are a lot of perceptions that you're going to have to deal with when you approach a new site conversion. Some people might think that it's a takeover. Some people might not understand it. Then you're also going to have those people who really understand it and are on board to begin with. But you really have to deal with a variety of perceptions. We kind of call it like herding cats a little bit. You have to get everybody to understand what's happening and really have that open communication dialogue to address the concerns that they have. Talk about what those elephants in the room are early on so you address those concerns. An example of that, as part of our philosophy to operate as one, we have centralized purchasing at Sanford. A lot of the new smaller facilities that we come across are purchasing on their own independently. Well, we roll all those operations back into the central Sanford group, and sometimes that can cause a little bit of anxiety with the new site. They wonder, am I going to have my job? What's my role going to be? And so you really have to communicate on that at the forefront to squash any hesitation. As we've gone through this, we've actually not eliminated any positions through the process. A recent site that we have started to work on the integration process with has very little background in engaging their physicians and clinicians on product changes. For whatever reason the history was at this site, they just do not have active involvement with that. They haven't done a lot of product conversions in the past, so when they come across our philosophy and becoming one team and working to standardize and become consistent overall as an operating group, it was very challenging for them to understand, and it caused a lot of anxiety. One of the resources we were able to provide through them was our value analysis leader was able to go to their location and really work with their clinicians and start from ground zero on how do you engage your physicians, how do you work with your clinical leaders, how do you get buy-in and support from your leadership at your facility. And so that's been very valuable throughout the process. We did not add any FTEs as part of this integration plan. We believe in the philosophy that we should use the same team to help bring a new site on the road as the team that's going to share the road with them. We operate as one sole unit in supply chain at Sanford. So we use our existing supply chain leadership group when we approach these projects. And through having a plan like this, very standardized, very consistent, we're able to really schedule our resources much more effectively and be able to do that. We did not have any difficulty getting any staff buy-in on this. We had done previous integration projects preceding developing this plan, and I think everybody really knew the importance of coming up with a core process that we could follow and have that consistency in our efforts. So we did not have any trouble getting buy-in from our internal supply chain group. We had some hurdles when it came to our IT group and our leadership group at overall Sanford. They didn't quite understand the process at first or what we were doing, so we really needed to spend time with them to walk through that process, walk through the steps, walk through how they can support us through the process and how they should be effectively communicating when we go out and approach a new site. We use VHA innovation quite heavily through our integration process. One being we use innovation contracts, and our new members obviously become a part of Sanford and they have the access to those contracts as well. We also use our local VHA representative to help us through all the paperwork, because again, there's a lot of paperwork when you go through a merger or acquisition type scenario. So she's been very helpful in getting that piece of it done and really providing the foundation to get them on the Central Expressway with us. So as a result of using this integration process, we've been able to onboard or integrate a lot of new sites to our supply chain program at Sanford. Since 2007, we've been able to integrate 34 sites to that program. And that's very attributable to this core standardized process that we use. We've also been able to focus more on standardization as we grow as a health system. And some of the efforts that we've done through that process through product conversion with our new facilities. Typically our sites will see a 15 to 25% supply expense reduction. We've also seen a reduction in the number of unique items that a facility will use. Typically, we've seen between 40 and 63% reduction in the number of unique products from the time that they start integrating with us to the time that the product review and conversion process is finished. So we've really been able to focus on our standardization efforts and really operate as one core unit. My greatest piece of advice, if you were to approach an integration project at your own facility, is to get the core team together first. And as part of getting the core team together, you really need to understand and define your scope. What level will you integrate your new facilities to? Are you going to focus on product conversion as part of your integration process, or are you going to do that later on down the road? And depending on that level of integration that you decide to pursue will dictate who needs to be at the table in helping you define that plan.